All right, so bye week, we had, they do a bye week kind of differently. We had some people that they go off from snaps of how many people do practice. So we had like a bunch of like the starters if they would practice halfway through and then they would go condition, and then there'd be the developmental people and like people like me. I I was gone for a couple of weeks, so I had to practice too, which I didn't mind. I thought it was fun too. So during the bye week, we did have practice, and I mean for the people that played a lot, they did have practice and conditioning. The developmental squad and us, the hurt people, we practiced fully, and we went through. We did a little bit of BYU prep during our bye week too, and a lot of people did a lot of film work too, and just took the time off and relaxed, and basically just getting ready for the next 7 or 8 weeks we got coming up.
So you go from bye week to BYU week. Not much of a change in the lettering and all of that.
Yeah.
What does that do to guys' feelings as far as this team and in-state and everything? You're not an in-state guy, but a
Yeah.
lot of guys, this means a heck of a lot.
Oh, I mean, just being around the guys that are in state, it's intense. The a lot of people don't say rivalry right now, but just out of respect, it's up there. It's a big game, and we're 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 fighting for, respect and for pride, and I think this game's it's gonna be a fun game, and we just gotta be mentally ready and physically. I think physically we're good. We got a good week of rest, and we just gotta come in mentally strong.
I felt pretty good for you, and only considering the nature of your injury, they only missed 3 games. So just tell me how good you feel about how your progress has been healing from your injury.
Oh, it's been good. I didn't expect to play a lot on Air Force, so when I got in, I took the most chance of it, and it felt good. Just being back out there with playing with my defensive boys, and it was rough because you guys see me with one big old club in my hand, so it was hard. But just to be out there again and playing with my teammates is so much fun. So yeah.
What's the limitations of the club? I mean, grabbing somebody.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be the hard thing that you got to tackle with one hand in some ways, don't you? In some ways, kind of.
Yeah, so that is a hard problem. Right in the first play when I got in, it was funny. I thought it was going to be like, okay, it's whatever. I got chopped right away from Air Force, and then, I tried to get up fast, but I realized I only have one hand, so I was like, oh, man. And it just didn't work out. And then, like, later on those plays, too, I think it was, like, twice. I tried to, like, grab a guy, but really I forgot I didn't have a hand. I ended up getting tossed, and I was like, oh, man. I was like, it was like, it was trying to get comfortable with it, but eventually I got used to it, and as the game went, it got easier and easier.
We made a heck of a lot of tackles for only one arm.
Yeah, made a lot, but got tossed a little bit more too.
Is there any concept that this BYU's now come in with the Wisconsin game? They came up with this fly sweep was a big part of their offense now with the running game. Is there any part of the concept of that that's similar to playing against Air Forces type stuff, or is that totally different as far as how it's run and blocked and how you have to play that?
So in our meetings, as our linebacker coach, he was telling us it's kind of similar. And if you actually think about it, it is, because our main job is to stop the run. That's the only two things they have in the run is they're gonna go inside or they're gonna go outside. So it's basically similar. Just they do it in so much different formations. So if we can, like I said, if we prepare good, prepare perfectly for their formations, and we understand, we know what to expect in their formation on when they're going to do jet sweep and all that. We'll be solid.
Being that you have been actually able to watch some film on them already, what's the biggest improvements that you've seen from them, from their team from a year ago?
I would say like their whole offense. I think that I heard they picked up a new offensive coordinator, so I've noticed. I was saying before they do a lot of different formations, and I think that's a really good thing for them, because then it's harder to read, but if we pick up on it, and then it should be easy. But I would say they're playing in different type of formations and running the ball.
So it seemed like a lot of guys really kind of stepped up with you being out for the first few games, and we saw, I mean, several injuries, but a lot of guys deep in the depth chart coming up and making plays. Talk a little bit about the depth on the defense and how good that was for you being out to be able to still see the defense playing well.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know. I said it in the earlier when I was in Vegas that that's like the difference from last year. We have so much depth, and that's what's is so great. And when I went to Michigan State, it sucked that I didn't get to play, but man, I had so much fun watching my boys play out there, because they was out there balling, and I was so happy, and just to see the people step up, and do their thing, and I'm especially for the linebackers, they really stepped it up so much, and I was really happy. I'm probably their biggest fan, so yeah.
Defense was a huge, huge part of the win against BYU last year, making tons of plays all over the place. They seem, with their offense, they haven't turned it over quite as bit, or they don't seem to be as prevalent to that. I mean, but still, you guys, can you think back? I mean, that game had to be just a great feeling for the defense to make all those touchdowns and make all those plays and stuff in the BYU game last year.
Yeah, that was a lot of turnovers. I think Coach Wilson mentioned it yesterday about turnover margins. Over the last 6 years, whoever wins the turnover margins will win the game, and hopefully this year we can, we're going to do it again, try to turn that ball over, and once we do it, we know we're going to get it.
Can you talk about the challenge of bringing down Squally Canada? It seems like he gets a lot of his yards after breaking the first tackle. What do you see on film when you watch him run the ball?
He's a good runner. He's a hard runner. But I think it's hard when you're playing the jet sweep and then you're trying to read the inside run, because you're trying to help out both ways. So, we're doing a lot of focus on certain people read here, read the inside, and then certain people read the outside. And I think that's how we're going to contain both the jet sweep and the Canada running back. But besides that, he's a good runner. He's a heavy back. He doesn't. I know he's just a north and south type of guy. So
when you watch a game like Saturday night, Washington essentially shutting them out. I mean, they score in the last minute or so. But how much do you try and replicate that defense, and how much do you just, stick to your original game plan, stick with what you guys do well? Do you try and copycat what they do on film and try and change your defense to look more like that?
No, we stick it to our system, because our system's been working really, really good for us. So I don't think we're gonna change or try to copy. And then it's UW, they're a really good defensive team too. So and I think we're a good team too. We're a really good team. So I think we'll play our defense.
Does the energy pick up a little bit this week? I know it's a non-conference game, but it's BYU. Is there a sense of the energy ratcheting up a couple notches now?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't gotten to the locker room, so I don't know yet. But, I remember last year when it was BYU week, the energy was up. The media had it going crazy if you looked at media. But, yeah, the energy's going to be up there. We want to be the best in Utah. We got to take one of the top teams out, so.
So obviously it was really great having a bye week this past week. We were able to get some guys back who were hurt. Overall, it was just a good time to, get our bodies back a little bit, get some much-needed rest. It was also good to get a kind of a jump start on BYU week this week. It's getting in there, starting talking about schemes and, how we're going to, play against their defense. And, it was a good time to have the bye week, and we're excited and we're ready to go for this week.
depth chart now lists you at both left tackle and guard. You've played mostly guard up
Yeah.
now, right? Would you feel, is Moroni ready to kind of step back in? Or, I mean, it sounds like some of the other guys have played pretty well on the offensive line when they've showed them time, like Edwards and South and some of these other guys too. So far.
Yeah, we're in a really good position in our offensive line right now where we have a lot of guys. Moroni's full go this week, so we have a lot of competition within the line room, even mid-season, that allows us to kind of play with a couple different depth charts and see kind of like where people fit best, where we have the best chemistry, and allows us to accomplish different things, which that's included me playing a lot of left guard this season, and not as much tackle. So that's just the way it's worked out, and it's great to have that much depth in the O-line room and be able to kind of play with those puzzle pieces a little bit.
But you feel like you could play both positions in this game maybe at times?
Yeah, I think so. I could potentially even playing some right tackle this game as well. So for me personally, it just requires me to be ready to do whatever our team needs, and do a little bit extra film study, look at a play, look at some film, and okay, what I would do at left guard, what I do at right tackle, what I do at left tackle, wherever they need me. And so if someone happens to go down, we can make those adjustments on the go and without dropping off.
There's a few of you guys like you who played at BYU or at least around there, so this game must be a big one to you, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, it's a big game. It's a cool experience because, I mean, obviously, I know a lot of those guys still, and I still talk to them. So it's definitely it'll be a good competition. Obviously, there's a lot of history between the two teams, but I just focus it on. I look at it as just another game, and obviously every game is important. So you got to just approach it with the same mentality and prepare the way that you would for any game. So
you should be grateful, Roman, that you're in an era where it is a rivalry now between BYU and Utah State. We beat them a couple times, so I think they do look at us a little bit differently than they did for a long stretch when I was around here, that they were dominating us. So it's kind of neat to be in a situation where you've beaten them, they've beaten you. I mean, you've gone kind of back and forth a little bit, too.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, it's good to have, two teams that I think, match up well, and that makes for a good game and good competition.
Roman, BYU's definitely proven they're pretty tough in the defensive trenches this year, especially against Arizona and Wisconsin. So how excited are you as an offensive line for the challenge of going up against a pretty stout defensive front?
I'm excited for it. I welcome the challenge. They do a couple things different defensively with formations and whatnot, and obviously, they have some good defensive linemen, and so that just puts the challenge on us as offensive linemen to handle it and make sure that we can establish a running game.
Romy, you said that this is a good matchup for Utah State. What matchups specifically favor the Aggies in this game?
Matchup specifically, from an offensive standpoint, I like our chances. I can talk to you about specific personnel one-on-one matchups, but I like how, with what we do as an offense, how I think that will influence them as a defense. So, that's always been our mentality as an offense, is to attack the defense, and so that's what we're going to do. That's what we've done every week, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
And playing such a up-tempo, fast-paced offense, I think that's got to be pretty tiring, especially for you guys up front. How much of a toll does that take, just running up to the line of scrimmage every time?
Well, we say it every single day in the offensive line room. Our practices are harder than the games because, at least in the games you get timeouts and, TV breaks and stuff like that. So I think that, the way we practice is indicative of how we play on the field. So I think that we're conditioned for it.
You feel like there's a difference in Jordan Love, how he is even this year compared to last year so far?
I think there definitely is a difference. I think that he's got more experience. I think he has more confidence in the pocket. And, I talked about building chemistry as an offensive line with those 5 guys up front, but there also has to be a chemistry between your QB and your offensive line. There has to be that trust that, he needs to trust that we're going to give him the time, and, we need to trust that he's going to make the throws that he needs to make. And I think that that's been great this year so far. So we just need to give him time back in the pocket so that he can do what he does.
The biggest thing we've always had trouble against BYU over the years is running the football. And I mean, I know for offense to work, I mean, you know, we threw it a heck of a lot against Air Force, and they kind of took the run away. BYU might be the same kind of defensive team, but still, you still feel like you have to run the ball, right?
Yeah, I mean, offense is two things, passing and running. So you got to be able to do both to really, establish the other. They kind of build off of each other, right? So there's some games where you're going to favor the pass more than the run, like in the Air Force, and we'd like to be able to establish a run when we want to. So I mean, it's an extra challenge for us this week.
It's crazy that this is only your second road game of the season, but when you look back to your first road game and at Michigan State and now, what are the things you wanted to improve as an offensive line from Michigan State to now going to BYU?
Well, we talked about it. I mean, our first road game, we didn't run the ball like we wanted to. So, I mean, that's directly on the offensive line. So we want to run the ball.
You said that you still got a lot of connections down at BYU. And, I mean, I'm sure a lot of your teammates are still there. How big is this just for smack talk purposes and for bragging rights?
I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of that, but it's all it's all friendly. It's all in good fun. So I mean, but when it comes down to Friday night and game time, I mean, it's going to be serious, and we're both going to be. Everyone is going to be giving their all. So that's what makes the game fun.
Well, it's BYU week, and it's always an exciting game and week for us as we prepare for these guys. And it's a rivalry game for us. It's something that I think our fans look forward to. Our alumni, it was fun to play in. It's been fun to coach in. And you can feel the intensity, during warm-ups. Doesn't matter where you play, what stadium you play in, you can feel it during warm-ups. And it's a really good rivalry for us, and it's something that I know our guys will be excited to play in. This is as I look at this team, BYU, first of all, I've got a lot of respect for Kalani, for the rest of that staff. I've known a lot of those guys for a long time. And have relationships with those guys and have a lot of respect for them. They're a very physical team on both sides of the ball, front seven, both sides. They've got an experienced senior quarterback. They've got some, especially one receiver that really can run the ball, catch the ball, and really is a key. He and Canada really make their offense go. Taki's playing really, really good right now. I'm really impressed with him. Butch is back. He's a force to be reckoned with in the middle. I mean, you just look at their defense. They're strong up the middle. Tonga's very, very stout. Kafusi presents a ton of problems, on the edge. And, that they just the front seven on both sides. They're very good. So this will be a challenge for us, a challenge for our defense. Seeing something different again, as you go back and you kind of study them. And I mean, Jeff Grimes, I've known Coach Grimes for a long time. I've been very good friends with him, and you can see a lot of the influences that he's had come out, and there's a ton to prepare for. I'm so glad we had bye week. You see their offense, and back in his early days when he was at Arizona State with Dirk Cutter. Fly sweep was a big part, of that of their game plan, with the nakeds off of it, with the screens off of it, with the shots, vertical shots coming off of it. Certainly, he was a part of that at LSU with when he was teaming up with Matt Canada. That was a big part of their offense. And then, he's been around, Gus Malzahn, so you got to prepare for all the trick plays, and there's pace element, and what people don't realize about what Auburn does on offense, or when he was with Gus, is they run the ball, and so you can see the toughness factor of their offense, and they're going to run the ball, and there's just a lot of facets of that offense that he's had great experience for him, and so, man, I'd hate to be preparing for these guys on a short week because they do so much. And they do it well. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions.
Coach, you were here for 58, 56.
Yeah.
And at that time, this wasn't really a rivalry with Utah State and BYU.
Right.
We broke through and won that game, and it's taken a long time.
We tore the goalpost down
Yeah,
too.
they tore it all down, everything. But what is it like now to have this more of a rivalry? Because you have beaten them there, you've beaten them here. There's been more of a give and take now.
I guess a couple things, Al. I've always been reminded of what, Coach Anderson used to say and Gary used to say, you got to beat them a few times before it becomes a rivalry. I don't know if me as the head coach can stand up here and say that, declare it a rivalry. I know it is in our locker room. I know it is at our school. And, it's, the games lately have been very competitive. And so I look for another competitive game Friday night.
Along those lines, Coach, I mean, now that this game has the opportunity to be 3 out of 5, 3 out of the last 5 for either team, how much more important does that make it for recruiting? And, I mean, the fact that it is really even the last few years and this could give the team that edge.
Well, I don't look at it in terms of that, but it's really one game, one trophy, a lot of pride. For your players, for your fan base, for your alumni, it has absolutely zero effect on the Mountain West race, which we have to jump right back into next week. It doesn't have any effect on that. So I think it kind of just is what it is, and the team that wins probably uses that a little bit in recruiting, I'm sure. A little bit, but I don't think it'll sign you a kid. I don't think a kid's going to commit just because one team wins. It's recruiting still about fit. It's about atmosphere. What kind of atmosphere do they want to be in? The scheme, the opportunity to play. All those kind of. There's a lot more factors I think than the end result on Friday night. And I say that before we play. I just think there's more things involved there.
As a head coach in a game like this, how do you manage the excitement in the locker room for an in-state rivalry game?
Manage it.
Yeah, just
what day of the week?
The entire week.
I think when you talk about that, it's not even part of the equation until the last 24 hours in managing. I don't think you have to be at your emotional peak until 7:05 Friday night. Today's Tuesday, and so today's about preparation, about practicing really hard, and trying to win the game today in terms of your preparation. How much extra video study are you going to do? We're coming off bye week. Can we pick up where we left off at the end of the week? Those kind of things. I think that's more important at the beginning of the week, and then you worry about you start locking in a little bit more mentally and emotionally as the week builds.
Hasn't this always been a hard game, you as a coach, to prepare for BYU, to run the ball against BYU? It seems like Utah State's always had a tough time running the football consistently against their defense.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with how good their defensive line usually is. And I see another really good D-line. They're strong up the middle of the two tackles. They're really strong, and they're space eaters inside. And then, you got, now I think their backers are really good. Corbin's always on one end. Is he ever going to graduate? And then here comes Devin right behind him, and he's the same type of player, certainly. What great body defensive ends, and I got a lot of respect for the family, first of all. But, man, they're always good, and they're long, and they're tough, and they can run. So I think it's more who they are. And there's been times we've struggled to run the ball. And that usually dictates if you play well on offense or not. I can think back to all the years back, and when you have been able to run the ball some, you usually play a little bit better on offense. But that's not this game. That's every week.
In addition to their improved play in the defensive trenches, they've clearly gotten better there this year. What other aspects of their game have you noticed a marked improvement from last year?
Well, I think what goes hand in hand is the way the linebackers play. And they fit off of the defensive linemen. They're really good tacklers in space, and they're very physical.
And then has Coach Grimes conceived a passing attack. It seems like a controlled passing attack. Is that a fair way to put what they try to do with their passing, or what?
Well, I don't know about, yeah. I'm not sure. You see plenty of quick game, play action. They move the pocket. They're taking shots. So I think there's a great variety.
Okay.
Yeah, you see some quick game. They involve Bushman. There's been times they've moved the pocket and kind of a dash type series with Tanner. He throws it really, really well on the run. Tanner's been impressive too, as you kind of study, 5 games, I guess, into this year, and I got through all of them last week. I haven't quite got through all of Washington, but I tell you the thing that you can see is, first of all, he's a really headsy quarterback. He's coached well. He's probably the best quarterback we've seen all year in terms of his eyes, his eye control. I mean, he looks off. He comes back. He knows where 3 and 4 are in terms of potentially a progression in his progression. So that tells me he's coached up well, but it also tells me a little bit about him. When you see him dumping down, he finds his running back. I mean, the running backs are some of their leading receivers, and I think there's evidence of him dropping balls down, and he's going through his full read, but he does a really good job with his eyes.
How about personnel-wise? We just noticed on here that you list Moroni and Andrus as kind of back in. So are you? Yeah,
that's Hoffman and his crew. They have a Monday morning meeting and put the guys in how they think we ought to play them. And it hadn't really got to Coach Farmer yet, I don't think. But
are you? Is he more healthy to play now?
Moroni?
Because of the bye.
Yeah, he played last. He played last game.
He played
last game. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Did the bye help in those areas where you had a
bye
lot of
helped.
guys that were kind of
Sure.
played a little but maybe didn't play as much?
Sure, and it helped us get a little healthier on defense. I mean, we played 114 snaps against Air Force. We were pretty banged up and bruised up coming out of that game. So I think it helped there probably more than anything.
Coach, I saw you out recruiting on
Yep.
Friday night. I mean, is
Yeah.
the bye week actually any less busy than a regular week for you guys?
No, it's just different busy. I think it's a mixture of resting your players, your guys that have played a lot of snaps, getting them the right mix of practice and physicality. We practiced the young guys quite a bit and had a full scrimmage on Thursday with some of the younger guys. A lot of the assistants were out. All the assistants were out, I guess I should say, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Me and the coordinators were out Friday. And so, yeah, you got a mix there. And then getting those guys some rest over the weekend. So kind of our normal bye week, kind of how we have. But, everybody thinks you're off. You're just working different. And we're no different than most teams. I guess we are. Sometimes we practice a little different than most teams do on bye week.
Well, and you've had really good success after bye weeks. I mean, we talked a little bit about it after the last game, undefeated after a bye. Have you kind of had the same bye week structure every year of your coaching, or has it kind of evolved? And I mean,
in terms of
secret, but
well, in terms of practice, meeting, self-scout, recruiting, rest, conditioning. I mean, in terms of all that internally, yes, we've played different opponents coming off bye week, and so. We've had bye weeks where we play on Friday. We've had bye weeks where we've played on Saturday. So that changes a little bit of the game week practice. But for the most part, last week we stayed on kind of our routine, what we've had the last 6 years.
Do you have any thoughts about? Did you watch any of the other conference games this week?
I did. I watched a little bit.
What did you think of what the Mountain West this weekend, Boise and Hawaii?
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I don't know. I didn't get the Hawaii,
No, I had to
San Jose. Did y'all get it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
overtimes.
Yeah. As we watched the BYU game or the end of it, I was getting a play-by-play by my daughter. She was following it on her phone. So, yeah, that's how I listened to the Hawaii game a little bit. In San Jose. Did watch Boise in Wyoming. I was in the second of a 10U doubleheader, so I watched it on my phone. I did watch a doubleheader on Saturday, which was good. I guess that's a little different, Jaden. You know, I did get a chance to go out on Saturday and see Wyatt play some ball. So.